I'm super happy to be here. Fantastic venue for us, at least. We can see this magnificent view. Please have a seat. To start with. So my name is Anders, the Swedish version of Andreas or Andy or Andres, I guess. Live in Stockholm. So we have here a pretty international panel from Japan, Brazil, Mexico, and Ando somewhere in California. It's midnight, right? I think it's midnight in San Francisco, so stay awake. Coming to the introductions, we're going to talk about sustainability, very important, urgent area, of course, covers social, economical, ecological aspects. So we zoom in on the ecological environmental aspect, reflecting these Superbrain's research areas. Just short on me, I'm working in the fintech space. So how come I end up here? Well, in fintech is an area called green or climate fintech that is increasingly growing fast. Come back to Andreas' speech. There's startups working exactly on that. Financialization of nature. Big thing is coming, a movement, a lot of startups in that space. So we do matchmaking between corporates and startups in different areas. And one area is then, again, come back to climate fintech. We do a lot of initiatives to foster new early stage startups in that area. So that's me. More importantly, we have the brilliant panel. Should you start, Yuichi? Who you are you and okay. Why we're here?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. My name is Yuichi Ikeda. I'm a professor of physics at Kyoto University, Japan. Today, I want to share with you our current activity on blockchain application to sustainability. Okay.
So we move on to Brazil. Marcos?
Okay, I'm Marcos Simplicio. I'm professor at the University of São Paulo. We have a few initiatives on sustainability. I mean, Brazil sustainability, it's a kind of matchup that needs to go better than it is right now. So I'm going to talk specifically about one that we called Carbon 21. And so, yeah, in a few minutes.
Ivan, Mexico?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, directly from Mexico City, exactly. So I'm Ivan Razzo. I'm assistant professor at the TAM. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the project that we are conducting together with some graduate and undergraduate students related to electricity, renewable energy specifically.
And then we have Ando. Where's the camera? So in California. Please, Ando.
Hi, everyone. There's a bit of feedback coming, but it's okay. I'm a researcher at the University of California at Berkeley, and I work on open sourcing and open accessing robust scientific tools for pricing carbon effectively. I also work on deep learning models for assessing ecosystem health and vitality and biodiversity, such that financialization of nature, as our keynote address, can happen in an effective way, and so that monitoring, reporting, and verification of results-based outcome and therefore financing can happen effectively.
Super. So by that, so the main theme will be decentralized energy based on your research, but also the climate financing. So we're trying to get the thread for you, and again, they will be around for a lunch table, so take the opportunity to grasp them. So if we start with Yuichi. You're doing some research involving students in the testing environment for, we call it decentralized energy. So could you just elaborate on that?
Okay. Thank you, Anders. Recently, we developed a blockchain system. We developed an energy transaction system using XRP ledger to integrate the renewable energy as much as possible. So after this development, we started this July small-scale experiment in our dormitory in our school. So currently, data is started to accumulate. So this is my brief status of our development.
Can you stretch it a bit what that could be outcome if you get the results and how you can stretch it more on an international level?
Okay, so we first at the first stage we applied the system into our dormitory. The number of the students is just a few 10 students, so very small scale, very small. After accumulating the experience, we improved the system. Then we applied the system to the remote area of Japan. After that, we combine the system to other type of the blockchain application. So that one possibility is monitoring system for the people's energy consumption and environment in the house. For example, CO2 concentrations and temperatures, humidities, and other environmental stuff. So, in addition to that, we are considering to integrate other systems that manage the ID system for healthcare application. So to combine completely different three systems, we have to develop inter-blockchain application. So that is our next stage application. Okay.
Super. I mean, with energy, I assume everyone in Europe at least is crazy, the pricing. In Sweden, the price has gone up 15 times compared to a year ago. We had an election 10 days ago. Top on the agenda of the debate was the energy crisis, the pricing, horrendous. So that's an urgent problem, short term, but long term is also about energy production globally. We talk about financial inclusion. How about energy inclusion? So all those projects, super relevant. And if we move over to you, Ivan, you have a similar type of project, but more on a city level. Maybe you can describe that project?
Sure, yeah, so it all started together with the students when we were discussing about energy transition and how to make it fair. So usually when you hear about energy transition, many people talk about at least what they call 3Ds. So decarbonization, decentralization, and digitalization. And we thought that there is a 4D that is missing, which is democratization. The thing is that, well, right now in Mexico, there is a market for green certificates, but that market is only available for big producers. So those guys that have power plants with installed capacity above 500 kilowatts, they can play in that market, and then they can get benefits from that market. But the small producers, which are actually bigger in terms of numbers, they cannot play in that market. So what we started investigating is how to give access to those small producers to that kind of market. So that's why we started thinking, okay, that would be a way to democratize the access to that kind of markets. So it's a market that is already operating, but it's excluding these small players. So since already quite some months, we started analyzing how is that we can design a mechanism supported by blockchain that allows let's say, the aggregation of all these small producers, so that they together can create, that's what they actually do. They generate megawatt hours with their installations. So what we started investigating is how is that we can aggregate them in a very in a robust way, supported by blockchain, so that they can also create these certificates that could be verified, validated, and then also traded in a market for these kind of small players, so that they can also get the benefit of this energy transition. Because I mean, they are small ones, but they are still contributing to the decarbonization and to the energy transition. So that's pretty much what we've been doing.
So if we combine this is more on rural areas. If you stretch it, you can actually have energy production and have the trading mechanism off-grid, the central grid. Otherwise, you put into a big grid, and then you get back the electricity usually. So that's one way. And for you is to incentivize production anywhere, more or less,
Yeah.
and it can get into the system. So super exciting. I'm just reflecting on Sweden. You cannot do it. If I have solar panels on my roof and I have an abundance of electricity, it's wasted. So I cannot feed into the grid and get paid for it. I think in Germany you can, in some countries, but most countries, no. And you have that problem. You have a threshold you have to pass to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, there are two things. So you can sell the excess of electricity, but then if you want to claim that you have that you create also a certificate of energy, you cannot do that. So and then the big players in Mexico, they can do both things. They can sell the electricity and also get credits for the electricity that they are generating. So they have like two benefits. So we think that it's fair if the small ones also have those two benefits. Yeah.
Good. And also you have another project?
Also with we work a lot with graduate and undergraduate students. So we are also investigating more how to incentivize also more friendly ways to commute in Mexico City. So you know, Mexico City is probably a bit like London with a lot of problems for mobility, and then many people use private ways to commute in Mexico City. So we are investigating how we can incentivize people to use more environmentally friendly ways to commute in Mexico City, like either public transportation or bicycles. And the idea is that we can track where they have been moving, which kind of transportation they have been using, and then we can create a token out of it, and then that token later on could be exchanged by discounts in public transportation or some like we call them like cultural benefits. Like maybe you can exchange that token for a discount for a ticket for the theater or something like that. So that's still something we are still analyzing.
Super.
Yeah.
So it's a bit on the energy sector. So if we move into the nature, come back to your excellent speech. I love that. Very insightful. So a dire need to preserve and restore nature. And especially, at least for many of us, we look at what's happening in Brazil, maybe concerns. We don't know all the details, but on the distance, it gets that scary feeling. So, but could you elaborate a bit on what's happening in Brazil and your research, Marcos?
Yeah, I mean, I'm inside the country and have the same feeling. So, yeah, fear is shared. So, yes, we are a bit into, in terms of project, we are a bit into what Andreas has discussed. I mean, we're just 6 months old in terms of what we have been developing. But the idea is exactly to go into a tokenization platform for trees, in the sense that someone that, a landowner in Brazil, he can, well, everywhere in the world anyway, but usually people that has a small land and doesn't want to use it directly, they just grow a crop, like they rent it for a crop like soybeans or sugarcane, or even to raise cattle. And well, that gives them money, so yeah, makes sense. The problem is, why don't raise trees? Simply because that doesn't give them any profit. It would be a waste. The idea is to create a platform, a tokenization platform, where someone can actually register the land for planting trees and get some profit out of it. How that? Well, there is the carbon markets, as we discussed here. It's not that easy to get into. Even small lands, also similar to Ivan's problem of small amounts of energy production. Small land cannot produce carbon credits enough to enter the actual market as it is today. But if we gather everyone a lot of land, maybe we can do it. And also there are other grid-based approaches to kind of get money out of it and to create a stable coin out of those lands that are being forested, that keep the forest on or are being reforested. For example, in Brazil at least, it's a cashback is a big thing. You just give a small 2%, for example, cashback for everyone that buys your stuff. If we can create a tokenization platform where people get coins out of having forested area, and they get like 2% discount for using those coins. So people will want to use those coins instead of just paying with fiat. And that can revert to the platform, and all coins generated from time to time for those landowners, they could have an actual money value, fiat money value, proportional to the number of coins that were generated along the time. So that's basically the idea. I mean, the challenge is to how to make it profitable for everyone, and at the same time, give the public service that trees can bring humanity in the end.
So it's a way to incentivize nature in many different aspects. One other area is also come back for you that are in the European Union. We have the taxonomy rules, regulators pushing quite hard on any operation to do the sustainability reporting. Not only to report, but also to report your intended actions. Otherwise you get hit, at least in Scandinavia, you get hammered by your bank with your credit scoring. You're lucky to get any credit scoring at all if you don't do any actions towards the Paris Agreement. I think that's spreading slowly. Another area on the taxonomy is biodiversity. So now it's a discussion, how do you measure that? How do you actually measure in a company effects on biodiversity and how we can improve it? Pretty complex, but I think you're involved in one project that could be maybe compared somehow, I don't know.
Hope so. Yeah, we have, this one is older. We have like 2 years already on the road trying to make a proof of concept right now. The idea there is that's the Amazon forest right now. The other one, it's anywhere. You can plant trees around the country, but this one is on Amazon and any other biodiversity-rich area. The idea is that, well, as usual, how do you get money out of the Amazon forest if you live there? You can cut trees, you can mine, you can, well, sell birds to Europe sometimes. And, well, nothing really sustainable coming out of it. While people see the biodiversity as a big richness of the Amazon forest for like the drug discovery, food, cosmetics industries, biotech in general. So the idea is to help those communities that are there to actually get that biodiversity into a platform so people can buy it. For example, using traditional knowledge on some plants that can cure some local disease or, treat fever, whatever. The idea is that local communities can extract the DNA out of it. There are those PCR devices that are mobile, easier to use than they were before, so you can kind of extract that from the heart of the Amazon region, send them to a tokenization platform, register them as under the ownership of the local communities, and profit out of it for anyone who wants to buy that. Biologists, biotech companies, even create a local economy based on those biotech products. So we plan to go at least for a small proof of concept implementation by the end of this year. If everything goes well, we have some contacts with local communities. Let's see how it goes.
Super exciting. it's complex to have trees planted and monitored, data, all that we heard, but biodiversity. We have the extinction of animals, massive. So how to incentivize to keep them alive? It's super interesting. So I really want to follow that one.
Me too.
Touching that subject, actually, Ando, you're working on a more country-level project. Pretty exciting, I would say. So please, Ando, can you elaborate on your stuff happening on your side?
Yeah, there's a movement now to move away from sort of an extractive model of nature where we're, like Marcos was saying, if you have the Amazon, what can you do now? You're basically cutting down the trees, removing it, killing the animals, extracting value from the biodiversity. So now there's a movement to sort of reverse that and move into a regenerative sort of movement. And one of the projects that I work with is with the government of Costa Rica. And Costa Rica is very interesting because in the 1980s, they had one of the highest levels of deforestation in the world. And within about 15 years, they were able to almost turn that around. And now they're very famous for national parks and their biodiversity. And Costa Rica is trying new experiments to keep pushing on this frontier and sort of unlock this regenerative sort of model for the country. And in order to do that, in order to unlock financing for the conservation and preservation of nature, we're basically, we need robust ways of monitoring, reporting, and verifying the outcome of the efforts that are being put in. So, and one of the really hard things, like you were mentioning, is like, how do you measure biodiversity? With carbon, it's relatively simple. Like 1 ton of carbon dioxide is constant across the world. Whereas biodiversity varies massively by the kind of habitat, the organisms that live there, how they interact, the food webs, and so on and so forth. So it's part of a relatively complex project, but the idea is, can we use big data sets such as remote sensing data, in situ observations like sensors, and then use deep learning models to be able to estimate how the biodiversity and the overall health of ecosystems changes over time, so that those can be then fed into the obligations of financial mechanisms like green bonds, blue bonds, payment for ecosystem services, or newer ideas like our keynote speaker mentioned around the central bank of nature, or having currencies that are backed by nature. So in addition to gold, in addition to the energy resources of the country, why not also have the currency backed by nature itself in a non-extractive way? So these are some of the interesting things we're working on.
Great. You're also involved in a project, sustainable pricing mechanism. Can you just, or science-based pricing models, can you just go through that, clarify?
Yeah, I'm going to hark back again to our keynote speaker because it was such an expansive talk, and he mentioned this number in the beginning. He said, the damage that 1 ton of carbon is causing is, according to some estimates, $3,000 per ton. And what's happening now is that, different organizations, whether it's corporations or states, they adopt different ways of pricing carbon. And a lot of these some of these are market-based, some of these are random, or they're opaque, how they actually price it. But researchers over the last 30 to 40 years have been working on very robust models on estimating these damages. And so what we're working on is open sourcing and open accessing some of these tools and converting these damage numbers and allowing corporations, states, cities to take those numbers and actually say, okay, we want to adopt a voluntary taxation mechanism, or we want to buy carbon credits at these values because that is it's scientific and robust, and it matches our values of what we think that needs to be done.
Great. We're coming close to the end of the panel, but if we stretch a bit beyond the horizons you're working on today, if we see the blockchain is empowering for the energy, is in double sense, I would say, and in nature for sure. Big movement, again, coming back to what I'm working with, the climate fintechs. Already I got contacted a couple ones. They knew about me coming here. They want to get in contact because it's always for them to get credibility, of course, and also insights on what's happened on research. So it's really, really relevant area. So, but what do you see, let's say a few years ahead? Do you have anything top of mind that you see that this is going to be a big impact with the technology and in your research area? I know you're really tired. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, Marcus.
I'm kind of half asleep, but that's fine. As I said,
you're not the only one. I can see there's a lot of people here with jet lag.
The flight scrambled everything, yes. So I don't know which time it is right now. What Andres was saying, the transparency is probably key to unleash this potential of new economies. So I fully agree with him. Mostly when we try to sell the ideas, we are having the question is, okay, but how can you verify, for example, that area, forested area is still there? And fortunately, regulation-wise, we do have some good regulations in Brazil, at least, to say the size of the land, and also to tell that someone has a forested area that has been reforested and that is being preserved. There are satellites, there are people that monitor this kind of stuff, but probably we have, we can think only Brazil. We can need to think worldwide. And if we can bring this level of transparency and people see the value out of it, and also if we can happen to get a grid-based economy into this kind of stuff, at least at the start, that would be great. Because, just for public service, it's hard to start the whole movement. If we can build upon grid, which we know how to do economy upon, it's probably the easiest way. So transparency, grid, public services, probably those three keywords from Andre's presentation it was a keynote. They were key.
Yeah. I'm going to steal that. The transparency is the first step in the ladder to trust. I really like that. I just come back. My reflections on blockchain in general is when I went to university, we had no internet, no laptops, no mobile phones. And looking back, how the hell could you manage a life without those tools? So if we started the same with the blockchain technology in general sense, but in this area even more, when do we have that state? How could we manage life, nature, our world without the blockchain? So how long will that take? Do you have any?
Yeah, well, good point. So in my field, what I would like to see in the coming years, of course, supported by the improvements in the technology and enhancements in the technology, is I would like to see that, and maybe I'm not the only one that would like to see that, but a faster energy transition. A faster energy transition where you have involvement from small players, from individuals or communities. So in general, I would like to see a more bottom-up initiatives that take advantage of this technology that we already have there, so that we just need to really know how to plug together. And yes, that's something I would like to see emerging more. And I think I see it already in some places, so I think it's just a matter of time that's going to happen.
It's generation and usage of energy, right?
Yeah.
Yuichi?
Yeah.
How do you see the future? 5 years ahead, ish.
Future. Yeah, we need some time. For example, 5 to 10 years for a real transition. So during that time, I think climate will getting worse, and maybe economic crisis again. So that kind of things is kind of enabler for the transition. So I hope, I'm sure that the future will be distributed, and from a small player, many individual player play an important role. So that is quite sure. Okay. So anyway, I'm very optimistic in that sense. Okay.
Good. We need that. Ando, you have the final punchline to bring in here.
I'm interested in understanding and seeing how we can transition culture and sort of start building these values into greater human societal culture, and which is a really, really hard thing to do. And I think decentralized movements where we are embedding some of these values into our economic system, I think is an interesting way of percolating those value systems. So like value for nature, value for more equitable society and so forth. As it gets more tied into our economic system, I think the incentives pile up there and can lead to faster transitions. So hopeful on that.
Super. So finally, I just want to thank the organizers for having me on board here, and also to meeting these super individuals. We had a group call last week. It was pretty challenging. I was midnight in Sweden. You were 7 in the morning ahead. You were late afternoon, and Ando was early afternoon. We got it together for a group call. So and very exciting to know what you're doing. I will follow you, and I'm happy to be in contact for the future. And I urge you, everyone, to get on top of this fantastic gentleman. I don't know if you have time, maybe for a question. We're just on the second.
We'll invite people to sit with you at lunch.
Yes, I think that's the best way. You can grab them and sit down and discuss over lunch. So thank you so much.